Bigger fish to fry is getting the, like, well, there's like 20 people here. We probably all have a lot of friends that live in Portland. We should all ask all of them if they know of any places that they think might be suitable. And if they have any recommendations, check them out and follow through. If you're on your commute home, you see a for lease sign on a building, call the number and say, hey, how much is this? What kind of deal it is. I mean, the more chances we take, the better chances we have of getting something. So I think we just need to get out there and really just have as many options as possible, and then email them to
how many people are actually going to be making monthly payments on it?
Sure, yeah.
So it's like kind of like, I don't know, like I'd hate to have a contract, but it seems like that might be the only way to do it.
Well, but we also need to figure out too, so we might as well just start calling, writing down like how much everything costs, so we have a ballpark of how much we're going to charge. I mean, I would like to run this as a collective, so that way the cost isn't an issue. But I think for the first year or so, we're going to have to try pretty hard to keep payments. And I think once it's got a steady flow of users, then we can worry about opening it up to everybody and lowering the cost and stuff like that. So definitely the first year is going to be.
Well, and to some extent, you're going to find sponsorship early on. There's a lot of people who would support a thing like this if you can make it real enough. And, I'm actually among those people. And, the thing that Wim and I are trying to figure out now is sort of what the relationship of the tech shop space is to what you guys are building, to what some other people are doing around town. Where are the holes that we haven't filled in with anything yet, right? I have money to do some of this.
And that money is outside of Tech Shop.
Right.
And one of the things that really sucks about the Open Tech Electronics Lab is that it is in BFE. It'd be really nice to see that much more centralized in a group like this.
Well, I don't think it's a pick and choose situation. I mean, we put it out there because that was the only thing going at the time we started setting it up. And
I know.
That's the message, I guess. And I liked your emphasis on sort of separation of concerns. I mean, there's going to be stuff you'll want to do out there even after you guys are open. I agree. The heavy equipment probably shouldn't be in here.
Yeah.
And it'll be nice to have electronic space and that kind of thing out there. If you want to fab printed circuit boards, you're probably better off going out there, But so it isn't like, that's what I'm saying. There's not a competition here, and it isn't mutually exclusive. I need to figure out how to spend this money Google gave me a while ago, so they'll give me more to support this stuff. But to do that, I have to be able to tell them a coherent story and myself a coherent story about sort of how does this all fit together. Because what I don't want to see is, what we've seen the hints of so far, which is like, people just scattered all the hell over the place to the point where I don't have a place where I can tell a story about this is where stuff's happening, right? I mean, what I really need at the end of the day, and what I think the city would like to see, and what I think the state would like to see, is a place where when visiting people come from Japan, which they do all the time, to see where open tech is done, to see where cool projects happen, where the Portland hacking is, I can take them into a room and there's people there doing stuff. And that's all I need. That doesn't seem like a huge ask, but so far, I having tried this once, way out in BFE, it didn't work. And I really need to find one that will actually work like that, so that when I call those...
That mindset, I mean, how viable do you guys think it is that it would be possible to find somebody in a position to rent out a space, maybe a building owner or somebody who's in charge?
Did you guys look at the used storage space that Micah sent? The Captain guy?
No, but I can note that down.
I mean, if you look at the pictures of that space is pretty awesome.
What is it?
It's the U-Store space. It was converted offices. There were like 15 stalls, raw office space, and it's up on it's actually by Everyday Music up on Sandy.
Okay.
I mean, really nice location, pretty decent infrastructure. No, it's in the U-Store. It's actually in the storage. So it's like light industrial raw space, but it was was office space. So it's all split into cubes. It's got all the wiring infrastructure. I mean, basically throw your boxes in and go. That was really nice space.
If there is one saving grace, there are a lot of businesses going out of business. Needing to liquidate stuff like office space.
There's the place on 28th and Sandy, there's where the 5-star printing shop used to be. That space has been unoccupied for, I mean, the owner wants $1 bajillion for it, but he'll probably take $900 a month.
What's the place called?
It's right down from Centaur Guitars, between O'Malley's and Centaur Guitar.
I'm relatively new to the
It's Sandy and 28.
Sandy and
It's in the middle of the block.
Oh, and then isn't that around Cat Plastics?
Yeah, it's right across the street from Tap Plastics.
Okay.
Sweet.
That space is just sitting there.
That'd be useful.
Yeah.
There's a ton of semi-industrial stuff around there as well. Glenn, did we have any of the spaces that you looked at that are still open?
None of them are appropriate for this, no.
Okay.
So let me, I mean, it's probably a no-brainer question, but let me ask it anyway. If we found the space right next door, it was 2,000 square feet, and I opened it tomorrow with equipment in it, how many people would be willing to kick in right then? Just would say, okay, I'm going to put in the money for the month's rent.
How much money are you talking about?
Well, okay, so let's say it's $100 a month, which is probably a reasonable amount to guess for this. So I see 8, 9, 10 hands. Okay, well that gives us a feeling. We've got to assume there's a bunch of people out there who haven't, turned up. So
I know of a few more dedicated people that could make it.
At 50 to 75 a month, I'd be in there.
okay, so how many? Yeah, what if we dropped it to 75 or 50? 50, let's say 50. Okay, it changed it a little bit, but not huge. The reason I'm asking is, I'm trying to figure out, how much sponsorship would you need to make it work, and sort of, what I don't want to do is front the first couple months' rent and then be left holding the bag when it turns out nobody actually wants to pay at all.
It's not necessarily an issue. Like, I just don't have any.
Right, I understand.
Yeah,
No, I again, it's not about, I don't mean to diss anybody at all. It's just we need to figure out what we can afford to do. And it sounds like something in the $1,000 to $1,500 a month range, we could probably support all by ourselves, and maybe a little more than that if somebody was willing to do some sponsorship. And,
It's a pretty good space. I mean, 1,000 to 1,500 will do pretty well.
It's still just rent. You're just talking about rent.
Right.
There's other stuff. There's utilities.
Well, you're still going to have to, the costs usually run what, 20-25% of the rent? Is
And
sort
there's
of a rule of
liability.
thumb.
There's other stuff other than rent.
Yeah.
I mean, but the bottom line,
There's
that's a lot of space.
for additional recycling, I guarantee. I'd like to see with this hackerspace, I would like to see the hardware hackers come together with the software hackers.
And develop things.
I'd really like to see that, and so far it's something that we've utterly failed. It's really hard. It's the kinds of people that turn up, the kinds of spaces that you need for that. I haven't figured it out. And if people have great ideas, I'd love
It's
to.
actually the requirement of this hackerspace is everybody has to work together on at least one project. That's the requirement, and that's what makes a hackerspace.
I don't think you can make that requirement. Who is everybody? And when do you bring down the hammer and say you haven't cooperated, so you're out of here? I don't think you can make that requirement.
It's a good point, and it's going to take some thinking, but really we want everybody to work together on a project. I mean, there's going to be...
I don't know if that should be a requirement. I think that should be a motif or a mantra. In 20 years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, I'm listening and I'm hearing 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're wrong. In fact, one of the things I'm trying to do at DoorCon is to actually go through and actually push a working group. But I don't want one project, I want 7 projects.
That's the main point of this meeting, though, is are we going to have people willing to work together?
Well, no, I don't think
about building
about,
community.
No. I think you guys have it backwards. It's not about, we need to bring these people to get together. We need to have people around who are hanging out, working on their individual projects, but being able to talk to each other and say, hey, I really like that project. Can you tell me a little bit about it? And then, they talk to each other, or they meet at DoorCon. They're like, hey, I've got this great idea. You want to help me out? And then people come together that way. Like, Ideally, it'd be great if the hackerspace was somewhere where you come and you're like, well, I need to surf the web, but I don't want to do it at home. So you go there, and you know that your friends are hacking over there.
You almost want to take everybody to Maker Lab.
Kind of,
You want
yeah.
to take everybody to Anselm's on Sunday. You're like, okay, so I'm sitting at home and I'm alone and I'm doing my work and I'm doing the 5 projects that I